Chiara's hand trembled as she held the tray. The manager of the exclusive restaurant stood in front of her, his face red with rage, pointing at the Italian marble floor. "I told you to get on your knees and apologize to Mr. Blackwell. Now." She looked at the man seated at the table, grey hair, expensive suit, cruel smile. He had deliberately spilled wine on his own lap just to blame her. Everyone knew it, but no one would say anything. "I won't kneel," Chiara said quietly, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I didn't do anything wrong." The manager stepped forward. "Then you're fired, and you'll pay for the wine you wasted. $300, a week's worth of work, her sick mother's rent." Chiara felt tears burning her eyes, but she didn't let a single one fall. She wouldn't give them that satisfaction. That's when she heard the footsteps. Heavy, deliberate, the kind of footsteps that make conversations stop. The entire restaurant froze. Even the manager turned his head. A man was crossing the main dining room. Impeccable black suit, white shirt with 2 buttons undone, dark tattoo climbing up his neck, black eyes that seemed to see straight through people. Matteo Ricci. Everyone in New York knew that name. Even Chiara, who barely had time to watch the news between her 3 jobs. He stopped 2 meters from her. His bodyguards flanked the exits. "Repeat what you just said," Matteo spoke, looking directly at the manager. His voice was low, calm, and absolutely terrifying. "If you want to find out what happened in that restaurant and how that night changed Chiara's life forever, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment saying where you're watching from. Every view helps bring more intense stories like this one to you." Chiara Davis woke up at 4:30 in the morning, as she had done every day for 3 years. The tiny apartment in the Bronx was freezing. She put her coat over her pajamas and went to her mother's room to check her medication. Eleanor Davis slept fitfully, her breathing heavy because of the pneumonia that never seemed to fully improve. Chiara left a note on the nightstand. "Had breakfast, Mom. Back at 11. Love you." A lie. She didn't have time for breakfast, and she'd be back at 3 p.m., not 11. But Eleanor worried too much. Her first shift was cleaning offices in Manhattan, 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. Then she ran to her second job, cashier at a supermarket, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The third job paid the best. Waitress at Ristorante Paradiso, one of the most expensive Italian restaurants in New York. 6 p.m. to 11 p.m., sometimes midnight. Chiara looked at herself in the broken bathroom mirror as she pulled her curly hair into a tight bun. 24 years old. Graduated in business administration from a community college nobody knew. Resumes sent to 100 companies. 0 responses. "You're overqualified," they said, which really meant you don't have the right connections. So she cleaned, rang up groceries, served food, and paid her mother's bills. That evening, Chiara arrived at Paradiso at 5:45 p.m. as always. The manager, Richard, looked her up and down with disapproval. "Your uniform is wrinkled." "I just ironed it," she responded calmly. True, she had ironed it in the supermarket staff room. "You're working table 7 today." "And Chiara?" Richard leaned closer, his voice low and threatening. "Mr. Blackwell is there. He's a VIP client. Don't mess anything up." Thomas Blackwell, CEO of some investment company, came to the restaurant twice a month and treated the staff like garbage. Chiara nodded and went to table 7. Blackwell was seated with 3 other men in suits, all white, all wealthy, all with that air of superiority that made her stomach turn. "Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Chiara, and I'll be serving you today. Can I start with something to drink?" Blackwell didn't even look at her. "Red wine, the Barolo 2015. "Excellent choice, sir." She returned with the bottle, showing the label as protocol required. Blackwell waved impatiently. Chiara poured a small amount into his glass for tasting. He took a sip, made an exaggerated grimace. "It's warm. Don't you know how to serve wine properly?" "Sir, the wine is at the correct temperature, 18. "Don't contradict me." Blackwell grabbed the glass and deliberately poured the wine onto his own lap. "Look what you did." The entire restaurant turned. Chiara froze. I didn't... You spilled wine on me. An $800 bottle." Richard appeared instantly. "What happened here?" "Your incompetent employee spilled wine on me," Blackwell said, standing up. "I demand that she apologize." "On her knees." Chiara's heart stopped. "Mr. Blackwell, I sincerely apologize." "On your knees," he repeated, pointing at the floor. Richard looked at Chiara. "Do what he's asking." "I won't." "Then you're fired, and you'll pay for the bottle." That's when she heard the footsteps. Matteo Ricci entered through the main door like a silent storm, 2 bodyguards behind him. The maitre d' practically ran to receive him, but Matteo wasn't looking at the maitre d', he was looking at Chiara. More specifically, at the man demanding she kneel. Matteo crossed the restaurant. Each step deepened the silence. He stopped between Chiara and Blackwell, his broad back completely blocking her view. "Repeat what you just said," Matteo spoke, his voice low and dangerous. Blackwell paled. "Mr. Ricci, I didn't know you were—" "You told her to kneel? It was a misunderstanding. Answer the question." Blackwell swallowed hard. "She spilled wine on me." Matteo turned his head slightly, looking at Chiara for the first time. Dark eyes intense that seemed to see straight through her. "Is that true?" Chiara found her voice. "No, sir. He spilled it deliberately." Matteo looked back at Blackwell. "So you lied. And you demanded that an employee humiliate herself because of your lie. I'm an important client. You're nothing." Matteo took off his suit jacket, revealing suspenders over his white shirt. He folded the jacket carefully and placed it over Chiara's shoulders. She looked at him, shocked. The jacket was warm, heavy, smelling of something expensive and masculine. "No one," Matteo said, still looking at Blackwell, "is going to make you kneel while I'm breathing." The restaurant was completely silent. Chiara felt the weight of Matteo's jacket on her shoulders, as if it were made of lead or gold, something precious and dangerous at the same time. Thomas Blackwell seemed to have forgotten how to speak. "Mr. Ricci, with all due respect—" "You don't have my respect," Matteo interrupted, "and you never will. Get out of my restaurant." "Your restaurant?" Richard, the manager, stammered. "Sir, I didn't know you were the—" "Now you know." Matteo turned to him. "You're fired too, effective immediately. But I've worked here for 15 years. And in 15 years, you didn't learn to treat people with dignity." Matteo made an almost imperceptible signal. 2 bodyguards appeared beside Richard. "Collect your things, both of you." Blackwell tried one last time. "You can't. I can do whatever I want. I've owned this restaurant for 3 years. You just never saw me here because I don't need to prove anything to men like you." Matteo stepped closer. "But if you do anything to hurt this young woman, if she loses any job, if any door closes for her because of this, I'll consider it a personal insult." "And you don't want to insult me personally?" "It wasn't a threat. It was a promise." Blackwell stumbled out. Richard followed him, his face red with humiliation. The entire restaurant exploded in whispers. Chiara was frozen in place, the jacket still over her shoulders. She should say something, thank him, anything, but her voice had disappeared. Matteo finally looked at her. Up close, he was even more intimidating. Easily 6'1", broad shoulders, strong jaw covered by a perfectly trimmed beard. The tattoo on his neck was a coiled snake, detailed, artistic. "What's your name?" he asked. "Chiara," she managed to say. "Chiara Davis." Chiara. The way he said her name did something strange to her stomach. "Are you okay?" Yes, thank you." "You didn't have to—" "I did." He extended his hand. Not to shake hands with her, to return the jacket. Chiara quickly removed the jacket, embarrassed. Of course. He was just making a statement. But instead of putting on the jacket, Matteo folded it over his arm. "How long have you worked here?" 8 months. "Do you like the work?" Strange question. "I need the work," she said honestly. Something passed through his eyes. Understanding, perhaps. "Marco," Matteo called. One of the bodyguards approached. "Chiara will assume temporary management until we find someone permanent." Chiara blinked. "What?" "You've worked here for 8 months. You know how things work. You know how to treat people with respect." Matteo looked at her. "Unless you don't want to." I don't have management experience." "You have something better. Character." He paused. "How much was Richard paying you?" $15 an hour, plus tips. Now it's 40 an hour. No tips because you won't be serving tables anymore. You'll be managing." Matteo handed her a card, black, with gold letters. "Call this number tomorrow. My assistant will arrange the paperwork." Chiara looked at the card. Her hands were shaking. $40 an hour. That meant she could quit her other 2 jobs, could sleep more than 4 hours a night, could pay for a better doctor for her mother. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, her voice breaking. Matteo studied her for a long moment. "Because someone did this for me once, when I had nothing." He put on the jacket. And because you didn't kneel, even when it would have been easier. He started to turn, but Chiara grabbed his arm instinctively. Mistake. Both bodyguards moved immediately. Matteo raised his hand, stopping them. Chiara released his arm as if it had burned her. Sorry, I didn't mean to. It's okay. His voice was softer now. What did you want to say? Thank you. Seriously, you changed my life today. Matteo looked at her, and for the first time, something that looked almost like a smile touched his lips. You're welcome, Chiara Davis. 3 weeks later, Chiara was starting to believe that night had really happened. The job as manager was difficult, but she loved every second. Coordinating staff, solving problems, creating schedules, everything made sense to her. She was finally using her degree, and for the first time in 3 years she slept through an entire night. Her mother cried when Chiara told her about the raise. God bless you, baby, and bless that man who helped you. Chiara didn't tell her mother who Matteo Ricci was. Eleanor didn't need to know that her daughter now worked for the Mafia, because it was obvious what Matteo was. Everyone knew. The politicians who came to dinner and lowered their voices, the police officers who never seemed to be on duty when he was present, the way powerful people treated Matteo with a mixture of fear and respect. Chiara tried not to think about it. He gave her a chance when no one else would. Matteo didn't return to the restaurant for 3 weeks. Chiara half expected him to show up to supervise, but his office sent a message. Mr. Ricci trusts your judgment. Keep up the good work. Then, in the 4th week, he appeared. It was a Tuesday evening, relatively quiet. Chiara was reviewing supplier orders in the tiny office when she heard the commotion outside. She came out and saw Matteo being escorted to the private table in the back. 3 men with him. All looked dangerous. The chef came running. Chiara, Mr. Ricci is here. What do we do? We treat him like any client, she said calmly. With excellence. Chiara grabbed the special menu and went to the private table. She knocked lightly on the door before entering. The 4 men looked at her. Matteo was sitting with his back to the wall naturally. Position of power. Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome to Paradiso. Matteo recognized her immediately. Something passed through his eyes. Surprise, perhaps? Or satisfaction? Chiara. Her name in his voice still did something strange to her heart. You're managing well. Thank you, sir. Can I bring something to drink? Champagne. The Krug that I know you hide for special occasions. She blinked. How did he know that? Of course. And for dinner? You choose. Something you would recommend. The other men at the table seemed surprised. Apparently, Matteo Ricci didn't usually let other people choose for him. Chiara nodded and left. She assembled a perfect tasting menu. 7 courses, each one highlighting the chef's best work. When she brought the first course, burrata with tomatoes and basil, Matteo stopped her. Sit. Sir, sit with us. I want your opinion on something. The other men exchanged looks. I don't think it's appropriate. I just made it appropriate. Matteo pulled out a chair. Please. Chiara sat, uncomfortable. The 3 men studied her with expressions ranging from curiosity to distrust. Chiara, Matteo began, you studied business administration, right? How did he know that? She had never mentioned it. Yes, at community college. And you grew up here in New York? In the Bronx. Matteo nodded, as if that confirmed something. I'm opening a new restaurant in a revitalizing neighborhood. I want it to be accessible to the local community, but profitable enough to sustain itself. How would you do that? Chiara looked at him. Was this a test? I would create an affordable fixed-price menu on weekdays when traffic is lower, hire locally, partnerships with farms to reduce costs, and offer training programs for young people from the community who want to work in gastronomy. Matteo's eyes narrowed. Continue. People want to feel welcome. They don't want charity. They want quality. If you create a space that respects the community will respect you back. Silence. Then Matteo smiled. A real smile which completely changed his face. You just described exactly what I wanted to do, but didn't know how to articulate. He looked at the other men. She stays. One of the men, older, grey hair, frowned. Matteo, do you trust her? With my life, Matteo said simply. The words hit Chiara like a punch to the stomach. He barely knew her. Why would he say that? After that night, everything changed. Matteo started showing up at Paradiso 3-4 times a week. Always asked Chiara to sit with him, discuss ideas for the new restaurant, sometimes alone, sometimes with his associates. Chiara tried to maintain professionalism, but it was impossible not to notice the details. The way Matteo always asked her opinion before making decisions, how he listened, really listened, when she spoke, the way his eyes softened when she mentioned her mother, and the way he protected her. One night, a drunk customer made a racist comment. Before Chiara could respond, Matteo appeared out of nowhere, grabbed the man by the collar and dragged him outside. "Never set foot here again," Chiara heard him say on the sidewalk. "And if I hear that you treated any employee like that anywhere, I'll find you." Chiara should have been uncomfortable with the implied violence, but instead, she felt protected. Dangerous thought. 6 weeks after that first night, Matteo called her to his office. "The new restaurant opens in 2 months," he said, pouring 2 glasses of bourbon. "I want you to manage it." "Matteo, 60,000 a year, plus profit sharing, and flexible hours because I know you take care of your mother." 60,000. Chiara had earned 19,000 the previous year. "You barely know me," she whispered. "Why are you doing this?" Matteo stood up, walked around the desk, sat on the edge right in front of her. "I know you well enough." He tilted his head, studying her face. "I know you work harder than anyone I've ever met, that you're loyal, that you have a natural talent for leadership, and I know you never ask anything from anyone, even when you should." "You don't know that." "How long has your mother been sick?" Chiara froze. "How did you—" "3 years. Chronic pneumonia that turned into pulmonary fibrosis. You spend $1,200 a month on medication. You've worked 3 jobs for 2 years. Never took a vacation, never bought anything for yourself." Matteo leaned closer. "You think I give $60,000 opportunities without doing my homework?" Chiara should have been furious. He had invaded her privacy, investigated her, but all she could feel was seen, known. "Why do you care?" she asked, her voice breaking. Matteo reached out, hesitated, then gently touched her cheek with his knuckles. "Because I see you, Chiara, and you deserve more than the world has given you so far." His touch was warm, calloused, surprisingly gentle. Chiara closed her eyes. She shouldn't want this. He was dangerous. She knew what he was. But God, she was so tired of being strong alone. "Accept the position," Matteo said softly. "Let me help you." "Okay," she whispered. When she opened her eyes, Matteo was smiling. And this time, the smile reached his eyes. The new restaurant, called Casa, opened 8 weeks later. Chiara worked 16 hours a day in the last 2 weeks before the opening, hiring, training, setting up the space. Matteo was by her side the whole time, moving furniture, painting walls, laughing when she corrected him. "You're bossy," he said one evening, when she reorganized the tables for the 3rd time. "You hired me to manage," she responded, "so let me manage." "Yes, Mom," he smiled, that smile that made her heart skip. Opening night was an absolute success. The local community showed up in force. Families, young people, elderly, all amazed by the incredible food at affordable prices. Chiara was at the register when she saw a group of men enter. They weren't from the neighborhood. Expensive suits, hard looks, rival. She recognized the danger instinctively. One of them approached. "Where's Ricci?" "Mr. Ricci isn't here today," Chiara lied smoothly. "Matteo was in the back." "Then I'll talk to you." The man leaned over the counter. "Tell your boss he's operating in our territory. He has 1 week to close, or what?" Matteo's voice cut through the air like a blade. He was standing in the kitchen doorway. 2 bodyguards appeared out of nowhere. The man straightened. "Russo didn't like that you opened here without permission." "I don't need Russo's permission." Matteo walked slowly until he stood between Chiara and the man. "And you're going to leave my restaurant. Now. This is war." "No, it's a warning. If you or anyone from Russo comes back here, if you threaten my staff again, especially her—" Matteo pointed at Chiara without taking his eyes off the man. "It won't be war. It'll be a massacre." The entire restaurant was silent. Frightened customers, frozen staff. The man looked at Chiara, then at Matteo, then left. Matteo immediately turned. "Are you okay?" "I am. But, Matteo, this is going to bring trouble. Let me worry about that." He touched her shoulder. "No one's going to hurt you." "I promise." But he couldn't promise that, and Chiara was beginning to realize it wasn't just about protection anymore. It was about something much more dangerous. She was falling in love with Matteo Ricci. 3 days later, someone threw a brick through Casa's window. No one was hurt, the restaurant was closed, but the message was clear. Matteo showed up in 15 minutes. Chiara was sweeping up the glass shards when he entered like a hurricane. "Are you hurt?" "I wasn't here. I got the call from the security system." He pulled her into a hug so fast she didn't have time to think. Strong arms, smell of wood and spices, heart beating too fast against her chest. "Thank God," he murmured against her hair. Chiara allowed herself to sink into him for 5 seconds, then pulled away. "Matteo, maybe you should close the restaurant just until—" "No." He held her face with both hands, forcing her to look at him. "I won't let them scare you. I won't let them take this from you. This isn't about me. It's all about you." The words exploded from him. "You think I opened this place for what? Philanthropy. I opened it because you said the community deserved it. Because you looked at me with those eyes and talked about giving opportunities, and I realized I wanted to build something that would make you proud." Chiara stared at him, shocked. "Matteo, I can't do this," he said suddenly, releasing her and stepping back. "I can't involve you in my life, it's selfish." "Involve me in what? You gave me a job." "You know it's more than that." He turned, dark and intense eyes. "You know what I feel." Her heart stopped. "No," she whispered. "Don't say it." "Why not?" "Because you feel it too and it scares you. Because you're dangerous, because people throw bricks at restaurants because of you, because you're—" She couldn't finish. "Say it." Matteo took a step closer. "Because I'm in the Mafia? Because my hands aren't clean?" "Yes!" The words came out like a scream. "You're good to me, Matteo. Better than anyone ever was. But I can't. I have a mother to take care of. I can't get involved in—" "You think I'd put you in danger?" His voice was low, hurt. "You really think I'd let anything happen to you? You can't control everything." "I can try." He was right in front of her now, so close she could see the golden threads in his dark eyes. "And I will try. For the rest of my life if you'll let me." "Matteo!" He kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate, hungry. Years of loneliness poured into a single moment. Hands in her hair, body pressing hers against the wall, ragged breathing. Chiara should push him away, should say no. Instead, she pulled him closer. The kiss deepened. Exploring hands, racing hearts, the whole world disappearing except the two of them, and this impossible moment. When they finally separated, both were trembling. "You don't understand," Chiara whispered against his lips. "I can't lose you. And in your world, people lose people every day. Then I'll change my world." Matteo rested his forehead against hers. "For you, Chiara, I'd change everything." "You can't." His phone rang. He cursed, looked at the screen, tensed. "I need to take this. Go." He left, speaking low in Italian. Chiara leaned against the wall, fingers touching her lips, still feeling him. What had she done? Matteo came back 5 minutes later. His face was different, harder, more dangerous. "I need to go handle something, but Chiara—" He held her hand. "When I get back, we need to talk. About us. About the future. Matteo, please, give me a chance to explain everything, the whole truth." He kissed her knuckles. "Promise you'll wait?" She should say no. Should end this now. "I promise." Matteo didn't come back that night, or the next. Chiara tried not to worry. He was a busy man, a dangerous man. On the 3rd day, she was closing Casa when her phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Chiara Davis?" Woman's voice, professional. "Yes? You need to come to St. Luke's Hospital. Matteo Ricci is asking for you." The world stopped. Is he... He's alive. But he was shot. "You should come now." Chiara caught the first taxi she saw. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely dial her mother's number. "Mum, I'm going to be late. Don't wait up." "Is everything okay, baby?" "Yes, I love you." "Lee." Nothing was okay. The hospital was full of men in suits, Matteo's bodyguards. They recognized her immediately, let her through. A doctor found her. "Are you Chiara?" "Yes." "How is he?" "Stable. The bullet went through his shoulder, didn't hit anything vital, but he lost a lot of blood." The doctor hesitated. "He woke up for a few minutes and the first thing he said was your name." Chiara felt tears burning. "Can I see him?" "Room 304. Chiara ran. Matteo was lying in the hospital bed, pale skin, tubes connected, bandage on his shoulder, but his eyes were open. And when he saw her, he smiled. Hi, you idiot. Chiara hit his good side, tears streaming. You almost died. But I didn't. He grabbed her hand. Because I promised you I'd come back. Matteo, marry me. She froze. What? Marry me, Chiara. His voice was weak but firm. I know it's insane. I know you deserve someone better. But I almost died. And the only thing I could think about was that I wasted 3 days without telling you I love you. You're medicated. I'm lucid. He squeezed her hand. I love you. I've loved you since you refused to kneel. I loved you when you sat at my table and talked about community. I've loved you every second since then. He pulled something from his hospital gown pocket. A ring. Simple diamond. Elegant. Say yes. Chiara looked at the ring. At the man. At the impossible future he was offering. You could die at any moment. Anyone can. At least I'd die knowing I really lived. Your life is dangerous. I'd change that. For you, I'd get out. She looked into his eyes. You'd leave the Mafia? Yes. Liar. He smiled. Okay. I can't get out completely. It doesn't work that way. But I can step back. Open legitimate businesses. Live a more normal life. He touched her face. I can give you security, Chiara. Your mother would have the best doctors. You'd never have to worry about money again, and I'd spend every day proving I deserve you. I don't want your money. I know. You want to see me alive at the end of every day. And I promise to try. He smiled sadly. It's the best I can offer. Chiara closed her eyes. This was insane. Impossible. Wrong on so many levels. But she loved him. God, she loved him so much it hurt. Yes. The wedding happened 3 months later. Small. Intimate. Just Matteo's close family, which meant 6 dangerous men, and Eleanor Davis, who cried from beginning to end. My baby is marrying a prince, she whispered to Chiara, while adjusting the simple veil. Chiara didn't correct her. Eleanor didn't need to know that Matteo was more godfather than prince. But when Chiara entered that small chapel and saw Matteo waiting at the altar, impeccable grey suit, eyes shining, smile that was only for her, nothing else mattered. He extended his hand. She took it. You're beautiful, he whispered when she reached his side. You're alive, she whispered back. He laughed. And then they got married. The first weeks of marriage were surreally perfect. Matteo bought a penthouse overlooking Central Park. It wasn't an ostentatious mansion. It was elegant, modern, but welcoming. He let Chiara decorate completely. I want it to feel like a home, he said, not a museum. Eleanor moved into an apartment in the same building, 2 floors down. Private doctors, experimental treatments. For the first time in years, she was improving. Chiara continued managing Casa. Matteo kept his promise. He gradually stepped back from more dangerous operations, focusing on legitimate businesses, restaurants, real estate, investments. But danger never completely disappears. One night, 6 months after the wedding, Chiara was working late at Casa when she heard the back door open. She looked up. 3 men entered. Unfamiliar faces, visible weapons. Where's your husband? Her heart raced, but her voice remained calm. I don't know, he doesn't tell me about business. Liar, their leader advanced. You're his weakness. Everyone knows that. Then you made a mistake coming here. Chiara was terrifyingly calm. Years of poverty had taught her not to show fear. Because when Matteo finds out you touched me, it won't matter where you hide. The man laughed. He won't find out if you're dead. He raised the gun. The front door exploded. Matteo entered like a demon. 2 bodyguards behind him, weapons drawn. Let her go, now. The leader turned the gun toward Matteo instead of Chiara. Take 1 step and I shoot. Then shoot me. Matteo kept walking. But not her. Never her. Matteo, don't! Chiara screamed. Everything happened in seconds. The man fired. Matteo dodged, surprisingly fast. His bodyguards returned fire. 3 shots. The invaders fell. Chiara screamed. Matteo ran to her, pulling her into his arms. Are you okay? Are you hurt? No, I'm fine. She was shaking violently. You could have died, but I didn't. He held her face, forcing her to look at him. Chiara, listen. This can't continue. I can't put you in danger like this. Then what do? We end this, once and for all. End this, meant Matteo calling a meeting with all the bosses of the 5 families. Chiara wasn't invited, but she waited up all night, pacing the penthouse, imagining terrible scenarios. Matteo came back at 4 a.m., exhausted but unharmed. "It's done," he said, collapsing on the couch. "I negotiated peace. Everyone agreed to leave you out of it. If anyone touches you, all the families go against them. How did you get that? I offered something they wanted." He pulled her onto his lap. "And I made it clear I'd burn New York to the ground before I let anything happen to you." Chiara touched his face, seeing the exhaustion, the tension. "You're really getting out, aren't you?" "Yes." He kissed the palm of her hand. "Over the next 6 months, I'll transfer everything. Legitimate businesses, legal structures, and then we—" He hesitated. "I was thinking maybe we could move, maybe California, or Europe, somewhere far from here, and leave my mother. She comes with us. Chiara, I want to give you a normal life, as normal as possible." She studied him. "Would you be happy, away from all this?" "I'd be happy waking up beside you every day," he said simply. "The rest is negotiable." Chiara kissed him, long and deep and full of promises. When they separated, she whispered, "Then let's start over. You, me, and the life we choose. Together," he agreed. "Always." 3 years later, Chiara was sitting in the garden of their house in Napa Valley, California, watching Matteo teach their 2-year-old daughter, Sofia, to walk. "That's it, Principessa, one more step." Sofia laughed, stumbling into her father's arms. Eleanor was sitting next to Chiara, breathing without an oxygen tank for the first time in 5 years. "You chose well, baby," Eleanor said softly. Chiara smiled. "I know." Matteo looked up, caught her gaze, smiled. That smile that was only hers. He had kept every promise, left the Mafia, opened a winery and 3 restaurants, lived a quiet, almost normal life. Almost. Because some days Chiara saw the shadow in his eyes, the tension when the phone rang, the way he still checked the doors twice before sleeping. Some pasts never completely disappear, but they built something new, something real. "Come here," Matteo called, extending a hand to her. Chiara stood up, crossed the garden, went into his arms. Sofia hugged her legs. "Mama." "Hi, my love." Matteo kissed the top of Chiara's head. "Happy?" She looked at him, at their daughter, at her mother smiling in the garden, at the house they built together. More than happy, complete. And it was true. She had started as a waitress who refused to kneel, and ended as a woman who chose her own destiny, with a man who loved her enough to change his. 5 years after that night at Ristorante Paradiso, Chiara Davis Ricci was sitting on the porch of her winery, laptop open, reviewing third-quarter numbers. 3 restaurants, a winery, a non-profit program that trained low-income youth in hospitality. Matteo appeared with 2 glasses of wine. "You're working again." "Someone has to keep this empire running," she joked. "Empire?" He laughed, sitting beside her. "Remember when you thought 60,000 a year was impossible? I remember when $15 an hour seemed like luxury." He took her hand, intertwining fingers. The wedding ring gleamed in the sunset light. "Do you have any regrets?" he asked softly. "Not one." She turned to him. "And you?" Matteo looked at the house where Sofia was watching cartoons with her grandmother, looked at the vineyard stretching for miles, looked at the woman beside him. "My only regret is not taking off that jacket sooner." Chiara laughed. "Always so dramatic." "I learned from the best." He pulled her into a kiss. "I love you, Chiara. I love you too." They stayed like that as the sun set over Napa Valley, 2 survivors who found each other against all odds. She never knelt, and he never asked her to bow. Instead, they stood up together and built an empire based not on fear, but on respect, not on power, but on love. 5 years later, and their story was just beginning. This story of Chiara and Matteo has come to an end. If it touched your heart in any way, leave your like and share it with someone who also enjoys intense and transformative love stories. New emotional stories coming soon. Until next time.